and Policy Committee on Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. Please note that I am present as chair, Mr. Harding as vice chair. Also in attendance are the superintendent and his staff, Mr. Lagarde, Mr. Crowdis, Dr. Cluche, Mr. Ford, and Mr. Boisin. Please note that most of these recommendations are those of Forethought, which is an association that recommends changes to educational policies and also modifications to existing policies. This is disseminated to all state schools and generally adopted by all. First is the consideration and approval of revisions to Policy File A-5.2 qualifications for school board members, and the committee recommends that the board approve and accept as presented revised Policy File A-5.2 qualifications for school board members. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by myself. Any public comment? Mr. Harding? Any board members? Any objections? Oh, Mr. Ford.
So I know it's a new policy or a policy update, but does it, are people that don't have the high school diploma and necessary requirements, are they grandfathered in at this point, or are they going to be required to?
I would say that if you're an existing board
It's
member,
for
yes,
the
you
next
would be
election.
grandfathered in.
Upcoming election, yes, sir.
Okay, just wanted to make
Right.
sure.
Can't kick you out now.
I think I've exceeded that, but okay. Thank you.
I know you have. Okay, recommendation number 3. The committee recommends that the board approve and accept as presented revised policy file B-3, school board member continuing education. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by myself. Any public comment? Mr. Harding? Any board members? Any objections? Hearing none, so moved. Number 4, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept as presented revised policy file B-12.1, notice of meetings. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by myself. Any public comment? Mr. Harding? Any board members? Any objections? Hearing none, so moved. Number 5, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept as presented revised policy file F-9.1, compensation. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by myself. Any public comment? Mr. Harding? Any board members? Any objections? Hearing none, so moved. Number 6, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept as presented revised policy file F-11.4, sick leave. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by myself. Public comment? Mr. Harding? Any board members? Any objections? Hearing none, so moved. Number 7, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept as presented revised policy file F-11.4B, sick leave bank. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by myself. Public comment? Mr. Harding? Any board members? Any objections? Hearing none, so moved. Number 8, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept as presented revised policy file H-3.6, student health services. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by myself. Any public comment? Mr. Harding? Any board members?
For the next one, I have something.
Okay. Any objections? Hearing none, so moved. Number 9, the committee recommends.
Ms. Benoit,
Yes.
if it's okay with you, we're requesting to pull this item.
Number 9?
Number 9, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. We need further clarification. We've observed some contradiction and maybe conflict with the law within this policy as it's written. So
Okay.
if it's okay with the board, we pull it and either bring it straight to the board once we get the clarification needed, or even policy committee meeting next month, either way.
Is it conflicted because of what the legislators approved recently?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that's
Yes, ma'am.
in litigation at
yes.
this point? Okay.
The original language still stayed intact, and it's contradictory. So
see.
we need to kind of make sure we're clear on
Gotcha.
that before we move forward.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, number 10, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept as presented revised policy file H-3.6C, administration of medication. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by myself. Any public comment? Mr. Harding, any board members? Any objections? Hearing none, so moved. Number 11, the committee recommends that the board approve and accept as presented revised policy file H-3.6I, behavioral health services for students. Moved by Mr. Harding, second by myself. Any public comment? Mr. Harding. Any board members? Any objections? Hearing none, so moved. Number 12. This is a consideration of approval of a revision to the pupil progression plan. And Dr. Bro, okay, I will say that the committee recommends that the board approve and accept as presented the revised pupil progression plan for the 24-25 school session. Moved by Mr. Harding and second by myself. Would you like to make some comments regarding
Yes,
that?
please, thank you. You all have a black binder on your desk, and inside there's a handout with the changes that we made in the PPP. There weren't very many. However, the first change is regarding the first and second grade promotional standards. Instead of looking at benchmarking in a specific measure on the DIBELS end of the year benchmarking, we're going to go with the composite score. And so it'll say first grade pass English language arts, third and fourth 9 weeks only with at least a D average, and have a composite score of well above, or below on the end of year literacy screener. For second grade, it's going to say pass English language arts with at least a D average of all 4 9 weeks, and have a composite score of well below, above, or below on the end of year literacy screener. And we took that language straight from Act 422. So, and then if you turn the page, the third grade promotional standards, those are the ones that changed the most. And so what I did was I bolded all of the information that has changed. Third grade has to pass English language arts or math with at least a D and have a composite score of well above, or below on the end of year literacy screener. And then this retention policy is new. Retention will be considered for students scoring below or well below on the state end of year literacy screener as follows. The student shall be provided 2 additional opportunities to score a higher achievement level on the literacy screener prior to the beginning of the subsequent academic year. Any student still scoring at the lowest achievement level after 3 attempts shall be screened for dyslexia. Such student shall be retained in third grade unless he is found to meet at least one of the good cause exemptions in Bulletin 1566. Promotion on the basis of good cause exemption is subject to the consent of the parent, principal, and superintendent. The student information system must reflect the promotion and the good cause exemption under which promotion was determined. And that's just putting a code for if they were promoted on a good cause exemption. Students retained in third grade pursuant to this requirement shall be provided an expanded academic support plan, 90 minutes of reading, daily reading instruction, and 30 minutes of daily reading intervention. Okay? On the next page, they did add to the PPP the grading scale, the 10-point grading scale that the legislature passed. That is now on page 18 in your PPP. And then our previous, the 2023-24, had individual academic plans for each student identified with deficits that needed to be addressed by the end of 4th grade. And they changed that to say, now we are doing some high-dose tutoring and doing more intense interventions with kindergarten through 5th grade who fail to achieve mastery in reading or math. So that's our high-dose tutoring plans that we're working on right now. All of those students that are below proficient have those extended academic support plans. And that's-
Okay, thank you. Dr. Broke, just a second. I want to go to public for any comment first, and then to Mr. Harding. Do you have any? You good? Okay. All right, Dr. Cliche.
One question, please. I noticed about testing for dyslexia in the third grade. Is there a thought process behind maybe testing them a little sooner for that?
Well, we do screen them in kindergarten. We do
Okay.
screen them in
So
kindergarten
you're
as well.
screening.
So, and that's through our special ed department.
Great.
Yes,
So we're already doing that. This is just
an additional,
Somebody slipped through the cracks or something.
yes, yes.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Crowder.
I'll take it. So I just have to ask a question, just for the sake of my understanding. If someone from the public comes to me and they say, okay, let's just take second grade promotional standards,
Mm-hmm,
passing ELA with a D average,
mm-hmm.
or first grade promotional, you pass English ELA with a D average, and then a composite score of well above, or below,
That's on the literacy screener.
okay?
So that's
So you're
separate from
below
the grades.
average,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a D, and that's a pass? Has that always been a standard? Like,
That D has always been passing.
D's always been passing?
Mhm.
Okay. And that comes from the state?
Mhm.
That's a state thing, huh? All righty.
So if
Uh,
I can elaborate, there are 5 levels on the screen, correct, Melanie?
Yes.
So basically, the well below is like the middle.
Well below is way at the bottom.
Before that?
There's well below, that's the lowest you can get. Those are significantly low. Then there's below, and then there's above, and then there's well above. So there's 4 levels. 4 levels. So the well below are those that,
If you had 5, then below would probably be right in the middle, right in the center. But you only have 4.
You have 4.
So below is like at the bottom. You're in third place of 4 runners. But that's not up
And
to
it-
us to
it's-
decide, right?
Well, if-
That's the state.
Yes and no. We could raise the bar, but we have 50% of our kids being held back.
those are the ranges in the
You lower
screener.
standard because, but the reality of it is that, we want to retain just those that really just way off the mark and not read.
Is there a way for us as a school district? You know, when I was a kid, I used to hate jumping ramps with my bicycle with my friends because I was just scared. And so what they did was they tricked me. And every so often I would jump the ramp and I would come along, and then all of a sudden my friends would say, hey, we gotta adjust the board a little bit, it's kind of coming off. But what they really did was they raised the ramp every time. And I didn't know it. So higher and higher my ramp was jumping. So I'm just wondering, as a school district, is there a way for us to slowly over time begin to increase our standards so that we don't lose everybody all at once, but over time, 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, now we have higher expectations of students. And I think there's an argument to be made that if you set a higher expectation, students will eventually tend to achieve those higher expectations. And I think that we get to the point to where the gentleman that was here earlier with the job, the K and B, you know, he now doesn't have quite as difficult time finding those people with the math skills to do his 5-axis welding that they're needing for these chips and everything. It's just an idea that I'm throwing out there to the school district.
Did you want?
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Voisin?
I like that idea. I wasn't going to comment on that. I really do. But correct me if I'm wrong, then the state, as far as Terrebonne District, would not be comparing apples to apples then. You know, we wouldn't be at the same comparison level because possibly until we meet those expectations, wouldn't we be lower? I mean, when you compare the districts that are allowing those kids to pass with that below, you know, if I'm understanding what you said.
We wouldn't be the same as far as percent of kids passing or failing,
Right.
but the
But
scores
scores.
are pretty consistent.
Yeah.
And, you know, for whatever it's worth, and I'm not
Yeah.
trying to say, hey, we're doing great, but we're like in the top 12 out of 70 districts when it comes to kids reading on grade level.
Right.
So we're not like, teachers are doing a tremendous
job.
job.
They are.
They are.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not trying to say that
Yeah,
they're not.
and I know you.
I'm just thinking, did I come across that way? If I did?
No, no, no,
No.
I needed to add that in there.
Sure.
Just because you know, when you see them, like,
You need some,
Yeah, well,
okay.
their work.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't deny
Yeah,
that at all.
yeah.
I commend the staff and everybody, all the time. I was just kind of throwing that out there, it's just something.
think about, mhm.
That's a good idea. I mean, I like it. Real quick, so all grade levels now will be on a 10-point grading scale. It will no
Yes.
longer be honors and.
Right,
and
honors is
regular.
on a 10-point scale as well.
Everybody
Everything's
on the
10
same.
point.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Ford,
So I have like 5 different questions and comments. First, I'm gonna get to the easy one, the 10-point scale. So in other districts, teachers are not putting in a letter grade in J Campus, they're putting in a numerical grade, which equivalates to, you know, the letter grade, but instead of someone getting a C on their assessment, they get a 71%, which is a C, but when you compare it to the next grade, maybe it's a little bit lower. So is that what we're doing in Terrebonne Parish?
Not that I'm aware. We're putting the letter grade still.
See, if I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think the requirement was with the 10-point scale to use numerical grades. So I may want to look into that. I know that's what the normal practice is, and
Okay.
that's what we're doing in other districts. The other thing is, Mr. Crowdis, I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. I think, and it's proven, and it's taught in education everywhere. You become a teacher, you're going to learn this. You have to raise the level of expectation, and the students they're going to meet that level. If you're a teacher, if you're dealing with classroom management, if you're dealing with assessment, if you're dealing with rigor in your curriculum, the higher you raise the bar, the higher those students are going to reach to achieve. So I do think it's time that we stop meeting the status quo and become the new status quo, you know, to sort of raise the bar. But what happens when you do that is you do lose a lot of folks. And I think that's the challenge. People don't want their child to fail. They don't want them to experience what failure is. But sometimes failure is the first step to success. And we teach that. And we bring it into our schools and we tell our students that. But at some point in time, you end up with a class full of sophomores who, you know, not one of them got a basic on their LEAP test the year before, which is what I'm dealing with now. So I do think it's time we start reevaluating that and raising the bar a little bit. But I also feel like we're in such good hands here in this district. And I've seen the other side. The grass is not greener. They spray paint that stuff, okay? It's really not. So I like what you guys are doing, but I don't want to use the state as a marker for success.
I think basically that's what I was
Yeah,
to say, is let's not let the state be our marker.
yes, because
That's probably the better way to say it.
and the state does certain things, and when I say the state, we all know who I'm referring to, but they do things such as implementing a new rule for school, the school performance scores to have an ACT score of 20 or above when the state average is 18.4. It's that type of thing, you know. The average of the state is 18.4, and now they want for school districts and schools to get those points for their school performance scores to have an average of a 20 or above. So let's shoot a little bit higher, but keep what we're doing, because I'm hearing good things about the implementations of the reading and the intensive work that they're doing. So I'm pleased with that, but I do agree, maybe it is time to start building a little bit higher ramp. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Mr. Harding?
Thank you. I think I'm in agreement with everybody, but I think, I guess you can say I'm the only one on this board that was here 20-some years ago when we tried to do something similar with athletes. We tried to raise it to 2.5, and we lost a lot of kids. Started at 1.75, then we jumped to 2.0, and then we came to 2.5. For some reason or another, I'm not trying to say it's not going to work, but we lost a lot of kids. So just be mindful of that.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. I agree that the bar is too low, and that we should look at potentially raising it above what the state says. It's sort of, to me, the two subjects that are the most important that you need for every other subject that you take, and they're okay with Ds from first to third grade. How do you expect in fourth grade to have it any different? It seems like there should be an intervention at first grade. It just seems cruel. I mean, if a student is not doing well, Ds in both of the most important subjects, there's a problem. And, you know,
Here's another piece of this thing. So let's just say hypothetically, we hold back B's and F's. So we can, it's gonna get to a point where there's a long chain. I mean, you have no choice, but you have no choice. There's no other place to put some students. Now, we can work hard, I guess that's why we can work harder, do more, try different techniques, strategies, but my point in saying that earlier was like, we're really maxed out, we're doing a lot. So what else can we do, or how can we do it differently? I'm not sure, but eventually you're gonna have kids that are like Matt said, 20 years old in 10th grade, because they failed 5 times. You know, so you can't keep doing, you can do it once, twice, after twice, the results diminish tremendously. You get kids that drop out, and then they have no education. So that's the dilemma we're faced with. They either drop out because they're overaged, or we try just kind of only hold back those that are really, really struggling and low. D is low, but it's not an F, you know? And D historically has always been promoted. Not to say that we do what we've always done, but that's kind of how
what about, Bubba, what about just one of the subjects instead of both of the subjects? In other words, if they're getting Ds in both subjects, average, that's, you know, that's pretty bad. But if they would just have it in one, I can see the promotion for that.
You know, we can analyze, how about if we analyze and we can look at the end of year report cards and like, just to see what it would look like.
Okay.
You know, if we change what we have, just see how many we're talking about. And what ends up happening a lot, you have some kids who are overage, right, because they've already failed. And we have no choice. They become just way too old for the peer group that they're with. And where do they go? Where do you put them? You can't come to school, or you know, like there's special ed. I mean, they're still moving with their grade level. There's really no options, you know, at some point.
I just have one last comment, and that is, there's a way to do this to empower the parents and to actually educate the parents and have those really tough conversations and say, listen, little Johnny is not, he's just not there yet. I see the benefit in holding little Johnny back 1 year. Let's work on what we could do. I know you're going to have parents that are going to say, no, indeed, but then you may have parents that say, I didn't know. And I didn't know what else to do or say, so I'm glad you're coming to me to help me, because I've experienced more of those parents than I have the other. So that may be something, and I know you guys are already doing that, but we should encourage administrators at the school level to do that, to have those tough conversations. Thank you.
You have another comment?
I think
Okay, Dr.
You know,
Chair.
I understand the conversation here, and in principle, I'm in agreement, but one of the things I like that we're doing is the intensive tutoring.
And that's what I was gonna say. I think the
So-
high-dose tutoring, this is the first year we do it, and there's specific requirements. They're only 4 kids in a group, and normally we have 6 or 7 in a group. I think that is gonna make a huge difference this year. I do.
So that we're not looking at it from a standard of who we hold back, but we're looking at it from a standard of how can we attack this problem early so we can lift these kids up? Because success breeds success, you know?
Yep.
And then once you're labeled a failure, you begin to identify that way. And it's very difficult to get out of that vicious circle. Whereas, you know, with the high-dose tutoring and just, you know, focusing in on these kids, first, second, third grade, spending a little extra time with them, and that may be what gets them across the bar. So what the state standards are? We are not 17 now we're 15. And then the next year, we're 13 out of 70 school systems because of that approach. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to make that comment.
No, I totally agree with you. And like you said, being associated as a failure, that, I guess that was my thought. If you do this first, second, and third grade, and they're doing Ds in each of that, you know, by the time you finish third grade, you feel like a failure, you know, regardless if anybody labeled you that way, you know. That's why there needs to be something done before. But thank you for what you're doing, and I think this extra remediation that you're going to be doing with the students will be very effective. Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Dr. Bro. There being no further business, that concludes the Education, Technology, and Policy Committee. We adjourn.
Okay, so we do have